Miss Transformers 96 here with another video review. This time we have the Hot Toys Guardians of the Galaxy Gamora figure. So going over the box first, it is the same style of package as Star-Lord came in. The only difference really being is the color scheme. Now it is a green background with a pink G for Guardians of the Galaxy, while Star-Lord was a purple background with a yellow G for Guardians of the Galaxy. Overall, looking decent. I wasn't a big fan of the Star-Lord box. I'm not a huge fan of this one, although I think that the colors are a little bit better on this one. One thing that I would have done if I was designing these packages would be to have Star-Lord have the G, Gamora have the O, and then Groot have the G, and then Rocket Raccoon have the T, so that it, spells out G-O-G-T, Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, then if they had Drax, that wouldn't make sense, but it's been so long that, who knows if we'll ever get Drax. So I think that would have been a little bit more interesting and make them look nice if you lined them all up, so that you can see, like, the acronym for the title of the movie. Overall, fairly decent box, but very simple. So let's get her out of package and see how cool she is. Alright, so here's Gamora out of package, but before we go into the actual figure, let's go over her accessories. Alright, so as far as hands go, you get 3 pairs of hands. I do have 2 of them on her at the moment, though. She comes with 2 fists, which can be seen in the background. She comes with 2 hands for holding the swords, and then 2 relaxed palms. Overall, I think that this is incredibly lacking. I really hope that this isn't like a new trend for Hot Toys, because the Star-Lord figure I thought was incredibly lacking on hands as well. She definitely needs some more hands. She doesn't have any accessories that she can't hold or anything. It's just for a figure that's going to be fighting with a sword. I think that some pose, spread out, hands would have been really nice, or just something else. But the very much lacking of hands is very disappointing, because it really limits your opposing options and makes the figures just less interesting. Of course, she does come with an extra set of wrist pegs, being the woman-sized wrist pegs, and they are green to match her skin color. So yeah, overall pretty disappointed with the amount of hands that you get with this figure. Alright, so as weapons go, she comes with 2 swords, both just being the same sword, though one's an extended version and one's a collapsed one that's meant for being holstered at her belt. So overall, the detail in them looks quite good. I mean, they're painted in a pretty bright silver, which is awesome. And then the detailing in there is quite nice. Nothing too incredible, but still very cool. They do get very thin at the end, so be careful that this accidentally doesn't like snap or something if you have it jammed against something. Overall, relatively decent accessories. She holds them really well, and you can put it in her hand in such a way where it's kind of lean to one side, so it looks like it's more extended from her hand and more pointed forward than you usually could. So overall, I do like the accessories. I find the holstered one a bit, it fits into the holster, but it just doesn't fit too properly, and I can't say it looks great while it's holstered. But the extended one is quite nice, and definitely I think a lot of people will pose her using that sword. So yeah. She also comes with the new stand that they're using for really all of their Hot Toys figures. This is kind of like the replacement to the smaller oval stand that we're used to. So yeah, at least it is the replacement for the Marvel figures at minimum. But they are, doing Star Wars with them, so I believe that these will be the bases of the future. Overall, it does look quite nice. I do like the design of it. It's not rounded, so it will look better when a bunch of them are in a cabinet together, and because with the rounded ones, if they're tilted, they'll look a little weird all on the ground in different directions. While this one, they could even fit together if you wanted to, so you can give it more of a unified look, and they're nice. They're larger too, but they just don't take up that much more space, which is great. They use the same exact cradle. It's the same thing, and then the nameplates are a little bit more pronounced. They're larger. They're definitely more eye-catching, which is nice. As well as the top is fitted with a slight like cardboard type of feeling material, as well as it is textured. So that's really great for figures that that you're worried will slip off the oval stands. This won't be a problem for that. Typically that's not an issue, except when it comes to Iron Man figures. The Mark 7, that came with just an oval base, and I've always just really disliked putting him on that thing because it does feel like it's quite slippery because it's so high gloss, so it will be much nicer putting an Iron Man figure or a figure that has a plastic foot on a base like this, and as well as you do get the nice textured design that has to do with the movie. So overall, I do like these new bases, and I'm happy that they're replacing the oval ones. Alright, so now let's talk about the head sculpt of the figure. So from day one when this was put on pre-order, pretty much the main thing everybody was talking about with this figure was the head sculpt and the face sculpt. So they did a really great job capturing Zoe Saldana's facial likeness. So let's go over it here. Looking very nice. I mean, it really does look like the character, the actor, in her green makeup. Looking really great. I am very impressed with this. This is something that, from day one, we knew it was going to be quite good, so it is nice to get a really nice facial likeness. I mean, I wasn't too happy with Star-Lord's. I didn't think it looked too much like Chris Pratt. It certainly resembled him, but I didn't think that it was Hot Toys quality of a facial likeness. While this one is definitely top bar. I see it to be just about perfect, which is really nice, especially from the side views. From the front, it still looks completely like her, but from the sides, that's when it really does. So overall, I am very happy with this face sculpt, and it does completely capture the actress. So I think just about everybody will agree with that. Even a couple months before this was released, Sideshow released a little game where they had a picture of the Hot Toys with the and then a side by side with a picture from the movie, and it was like, can you guess which one is the Hot Toys and which one's the movie? So they were obviously very confident with this head sculpt, and they should be because it is very good. Now let's talk about the hair. So women figures, I'm always a little skeptical on because most likely they will have the actual fabricated hair instead of the actual sculpted out of plastic, and I much prefer sculpted out of plastic. This is the one scenario where I certainly understand why they use this type of hair, and I might prefer this over like a sculpted plastic hair. One thing that I would love to happen, and it just won't happen, but it would be so cool if they did start packing women figures with a head like this with that hair, and then a separate head that had plastic hair, and then maybe with a slightly different expression so that you can make it a little bit more interesting. Overall, though, out of the, I have Catwoman and Black Widow from Avengers, and this is definitely the best hair out of those three. I think that it falls the nicest. The others, especially with Black Widow, I had to kind of try to style that to get it to look, like the movie. While this one really just right off the bat looks like her hairstyle. So I think that they did a great job just getting it into her actual hairstyle and how it falls on her. I think that looks great. It wasn't like I spent a long time trying to pose the hair to get that look down, because it was really like that right off the bat. And then the other thing that's very annoying with these fabricated hair is the fact that there's little strands hanging off of the head, and it gets very frizzy at the bottom. This one still has that, but it doesn't have it as much as Black Widow or Catwoman. I find it to be a lot less obtrusive. It's maybe just one or two, just kind of out of place. And when you don't have her up against a white background with some big light shining on her, which I have her right now in, it's really not noticeable. So I am very happy about that. Definitely the best hair sculpt of any woman Hot Toys figure that I own, and I do like that on the back there she does have some red highlighting there. I think that looks really cool. Wish that they could have sculpted some of the front of the hair with that red so that you could really see it from the front of your figure and not just from the back. But it does look great, and one thing that will kind of get it a little bit more frizzier, so you might want to think before you do this, is to put the headphones on her head from Star-Lord, because then when you pull the headphones off, typically they'll get somewhat caught in the hair, so that when you pull it off she has hair sticking out and stuff. I did do that, so without that being done, the hair would be a little bit less frizzy than it is right now, but it's not a huge deal. It doesn't contribute to that too much, but it is still something just to be thinking about. Overall, great head sculpt with the hairstyle that I'm not too into, but for the fabricated hair, they did it probably the best that they could. So I am happy that they did do it well if they weren't going to actually sculpt plastic. So yeah. Alright, so now to go over her body and clothes. As you can see, the actual body sculpt is quite good. They did, of course, just basically sculpt an entire body from the neck down to her waist and arms out of rubber, surrounding plastic. And they did a great job. I mean, it looks really good. And I'm very impressed with it because you can see like her belly button is actually sculpted inside underneath the costume. So they did actually sculpt the details of her body there, even though it is somewhat covered by the costume. They did a great job though, and I think it does look really good. Of course, they did do another thing I don't typically like on figures is use rubber arms instead of just giving us plastic arms with a joint at the elbow. So, I'm very disappointed in that because, of course, when you bend her elbows and whatnot, it creates a crease, as well as if you do that a lot of times or leave her in a pose like that, definitely it could possibly crack. The rubber could crack after a period of time. So that kind of stuff just annoys me, and I wish that they wouldn't do it. With this figure, I don't mind it too much because she just doesn't come with very much, and I just don't see myself posing her like some of my other figures. I just, she's mostly just a display piece to go with the team, and she's not necessarily a figure that I'm going to be messing around with a lot. So with that, I don't mind it too much because I have no problems just leaving her in a completely standing position with her arms straightened out and without them bent at all. So, and then of course without the rubber, you can't see without the joint, you can't see the joint, because it is covered by rubber. And considering she's got such a great facial likeness, it is nice to have a figure that is still articulated but shows no sign of like being a toy. I mean, it's pretty impressive. This is probably one of the most accurate to a movie character figures that we have, just because she doesn't show any joints, even though she has a lot of skin showing, as well as she's got one of the best facial likeness of Hot Toys, I would say, so far at least. So overall, really do like the way that they sculpted the body. The costume is very cool. It's black kind of leather with a blue kind of design going through the front of it. It's got some silver details there, and then a netted effect in front of her chest and on the sides of her too. So very cool. I think that is really well sculpted. It's a very interesting costume. I mean, it's not super flashy or anything, but it is really just interesting and stands out on the shelf as well. She does have some blue gauntlets there, and then of course the black that goes in between her thumb and index finger are that material is sculpted onto the actual hands. You've got the pants there, continuing that same very dark blue pattern with a lighter, almost metallic blue design kind of pattern into it. When we go down, her knees are like rubberized almost. She's got like these cylinder, cut kind of type of knee joints here, looking pretty interesting. We've got boots that are very long. She does wear a heel, just so you can see the heel a little bit more. Very nice. I do like the pattern on the front as well. So overall, really nicely sculpted figure. Here's the holster for the knife right there. Let me just put that in for you. Like I said, I just don't think this fits like super well. Yeah, I mean, it's always just going to be like sticking out a bit, and I did like specifically read the instructions to see that I'm putting this in at the right direction. The little sliver should be over here, and it just does not fit for me. I don't know why. It just doesn't stay in very well, and it just doesn't look good. So might just be my personal figure, but it definitely might be other people, so you might want to watch out of that. So overall, the actual sculpt of this figure is fantastic. Definitely the highlight of the figure is how she just looks in general. I think that she's got a really nice costume. Just character-wise, I like her costume a lot, and then Hot Toys has obviously recreated it with precision on this figure. And then the fact that she does have rubber arms, in this case, I would say is more of a plus, because she's got such a great likeness to the actress that to have the joint would take away from that. So in this case, I am happy that she has the rubber arms. With like Thor and even like Hulk, I think I would have just preferred some joints. But with this figure, I do make an exception. I think that it does look great, and overall, she looks fantastic, and that's really why you're buying this figure, because she doesn't really come with anything too special or anything like that. So overall, the likeness of this figure is definitely the highlight. Alright, so now to go over articulation. As you can see, I do have her just holding the sword, so you can kind of see how that fits in her hand, with her hand jointed down a bit, and with the sword kind of loosely put in. She does hold it quite well. Actually, I think, yeah, this should be the way. There we go. She holds it quite well, and she kind of gets it to point like really straight. If you do have it just in her hand solidly like this, it won't point as well, so you can kind of do that to make it point out. That's kind of what I was saying when I was talking about the sword. So overall, she holds the sword very nicely, and it is definitely something that I think a lot of people will pose her with because it is quite interesting. So articulation is actually quite good on this figure, considering you can't see any joints, you know? The head articulation is really quite good. It's up, down, and then of course side to side completely. You can do head tilts as well. Obviously pretty standard for a Hot Toys head. Shoulders are quite nice. They can completely move up, and then obviously 360, as well as they're on a bit of a joint in there, so you can raise and lower her shoulder as well. Just get her hair out of the way. Now the elbows, that's where this figure is very different from the average rubber arms figure that you might own. She obviously does have a bend in the elbow. As you can see, it does bend quite well. It does create a crease, but it's not like super unsightly or anything. My only worry is that it might crack in the future though. And then what's really impressive is that she has a bicep swivel. So that can swivel in like that. Really interesting. You know, she's just got a cut in here that can swivel in, and something that I've never seen before in a rubber figure, and I believe this is the first Hot Toys rubber figure to have a bicep swivel. So very impressive and super cool. She's got an ab crunch there. I believe it's just a joint inside of her rubber costume, and it does move quite well. It can move side to side, and then can even do some tilting as well. It can move front and back, and can also move a little side to side as well. Go down here to the thighs. The thighs are relatively hindered based on the tight costume, but it can go forward, you know, not much, at most like that, and then it does, you know, want to just slide back down, moves out, not much at all. So the thigh articulation is extremely hindered. She does have a double hinged knee, but unfortunately, because of the tight rubber fabric around the knee, it really just bends to there comfortably. You know, you could obviously force it more, but that's definitely not going to be good, and the costume will probably automatically just kind of bring it back. The ankle, there's really like no articulation. It's all one sculpted boot, and this boot is very long and quite tight to her costume, so there isn't really any room for movement there, so unfortunately no movement at the boot. And considering I feel like this boot is a little bit bowed out, I really wish that they could have found some more articulation there. What they could have easily done is sculpted this kind of shiny part of the boot as a separate piece on this piece, and then they could have just, you know, easily put in a joint here and made this heel separate from the actual boot so that it did have articulation. It wouldn't have hindered the look of the figure at all, and would have gave you some articulation in the ankle. And while I'm saying this, I am realizing that she's got a nice texture at the bottom of her shoe there. It's textured very nicely there. I haven't noticed that before, so that's very cool. A little extra detailing that you definitely might not appreciate otherwise. So overall, articulation on her is quite good for the type of figure that she is. You know, she's not going to do anything amazing. She's really hindered from the waist down, but from the waist up, she's not hindered at all, and that's very impressive considering she does use rubber arms. But that being said, I can't super recommend using the articulation on the rubber arms very much because it could lead to cracking in the future. So yeah, overall articulation quite decent. Alright, so for some size comparison, here she is compared to the other Guardian that has been released, which is Star-Lord. So yeah, so overall she's quite decent. You know, she's a fair amount shorter than him, which I think is pretty accurate, and overall looking good. They're both standing on their bases, which are identical, so they are at the same level here. Overall, they look really nice together, though. It just kind of gets you excited to get the full team, so I'm very much looking forward to Groot and Rocket, and who knows about Drax? Might never get him. They might just wait until Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Who knows? They must be having problems designing him in some way, so it's a little disappointing that it feels like we're getting so close to building the Guardians of the Galaxy, but then you're also like, well, actually, no, one of them hasn't even gone on pre-order yet, and has no, and they haven't said anything about him going on pre-order in just a long time, so who knows? Overall, though, they look really nice together. Alright, so here she is compared to the other Hot Toys women. As you can see, we do have the Avengers Black Widow, and then the Selena Kyle Catwoman. So yeah, overall she looks really nice with them. Her base is much thicker than theirs though, so she will be shorter. I did compare her to them in just a second ago, and she is the exact same height as both of them though. I'm pretty sure that they probably use the same basic body sculpt. Overall, they all look really cool together, and it's nice to see more women being introduced into the Marvel Universe. So yeah, Captain Marvel, looking forward to her, and Scarlet Witch, of course, she's going to be a great addition. So overall, hopefully the comic book women Hot Toys figure collection kind of grows from here. Overall, they look great together and are pretty nice sculpts. So overall, this is a great Hot Toys figure as far as looks go. She really has a great facial likeness, fantastic body sculpt, as well as some really interesting and well-tailored clothing. Other than that, though, accessory-wise, very much lacking. Comes with not enough hands. Her weapon-wise, she just comes with 2 swords. One's meant for being collapsed, one's meant for being an actual sword, and that's it. You really don't get anything special or interesting with her. They could have added a few more interesting things, maybe handcuffs again to kind of go with the exclusive Star-Lord one, because obviously those cups are so large that they won't fit her at all. So just, there definitely is a lot of stuff that they could have added with this figure that would have been pretty interesting and neat. Unfortunately, they didn't, though, and it makes the figure a little less interesting. Articulation is really smartly articulated, basically. He's got some really interesting joints, but from the waist down, she doesn't have much articulation at all, and she comes with a, nice base, which is going to kind of be the norm from now. So yeah, so overall, I would recommend this to 2 different types of people. For people who are building the entire team, yeah, obviously you need Gamora, and that's basically where I'm at. I'm gonna get the team, so I definitely want Gamora. And then for people who specifically are big fans of Gamora, so yeah, so if you're not especially a big fan of Gamora, then this is not going to be one for you. Or if you're not going to build the team, this isn't one for you either. If you just really like Guardians of the Galaxy, but you're not too into the Gamora figure, this is probably not going to be for you, because when you get this figure, it's not like, ooh, this is going to be so much fun, and interesting, I can do a bunch of different poses. It's really just a shelf piece, and if you're okay with a just really nice shelf piece, then that's excellent. But if you want, something a little more interesting, a little bit more fun, then it's definitely not going to be a figure for you. So yeah, so there you go. That's my review of the Guardians of the Galaxy Hot Toys Gamora. Thanks so much for watching.